Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today is Historic Day, and we've got a doozy of a deck for us with the inclusion of some new Jumpstart cards. Today we're going to be playing around with a very popular card, Sarkhan's Unsealing. Sarkhan's Unsealing was in the Jumpstart set, but it did originally come out in M19, but it's not the reason actually why we're going to be revisiting this card. Before we get into that, let's talk about the build-around card itself. Sarkhan's Unsealing is a 4-mana enchantment that says whenever you cast a creature spell with 4, 5, or 6 power, then Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to any target. When you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. So essentially, 7 power or more creatures are board wipes when Sarkhan's Unsealing enters the battlefield. That's where Jumpstart comes in, because with the inclusion of a card like Nixathid, a 3-mana 7/7, we get to wipe the board nice and cheap. In fact, we pretty much curve out at 4, and we just play 3 drops that wipe the board for the entire game. So Nixathid is a 3-mana 7/7, however it gets around that cheap cost by giving itself -1/-1 for each card in the chosen player's hand. Luckily for us, that does not apply on the stack, and in fact on the stack, Nixathid is a 7/7 that when it enters, it then has its -1/-1 attached, which means it applies the highest maximum amount of value Sarkhan's Unsealing can provide. And in general, it ends up being a pretty reasonable creature. I feel like the lowest I've ever seen this card be when I've cast it on the time when I should be casting it was a 3-mana 4/4, so with that in mind, this thing is still very, very good. We also have Rotting Regisaur from M20, another 3-mana 7-power creature. This one on our upkeep does force us to discard a card, but that shouldn't particularly matter, since the general effect of Rotting Regisaur is that we're going to wipe our opponent's board, and they're probably going to be pretty low on cards anyway, so to be on top decks for us is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, and we do have a set amount of card advantage in this list that can bypass the Rotting Regisaur. One of those is going to be the Bond of Flourishing. It's not exactly card advantage, but if we top deck this off the top, then we get to basically pick whatever we want. So it's like we had a selection of cards and we could only play one for the turn. You get to look at the top 3 cards of your library and reveal a permanent card from among them and put it into your hand. The rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and you gain 3 life. So any permanent pretty much means the majority of our deck. It can be removal in Bone Crusher Giant, so we can get that stomp effect to deal 2 damage to any target. It's a really important effect actually in Historic right now, since we've got the inclusion of goblins going pretty rampant. You want to have that stomp to kill skirt prospectors and things like that. It also can get us a board wipe, since Nixathid and Rotting Regisaur are also permanents. And finally, it can get us our Sarkhan's Unsealing, our combo build-around, which gives us, I would say, we'll call it like a pseudo 5 or 6 copies in the deck with a Bond of Flourishing. You're not exactly guaranteed to hit it with the Bond of Flourishing, but it does increase the odds pretty substantially by having this card in, that we will find this throughout the game. And then finally, we've got the Great Henge as well. 7 mana and 2 green for a legendary artifact that costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. We've got some very big, powerful creatures to get this down on turn 4 or turn 5 at the latest. It adds 2 green and gains you 2 life when you tap it, and when a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. So again, it gets around that discard effect on the Rotting Regisaur, since if we top deck a creature, we draw a card, and then we can play whatever that card is after that. So we can chain together spells without having to worry about having an empty hand. Most things are going to trigger the Great Henge anyway. Do have 2 copies of Lovestruck Beast as well to slow down some of those aggro decks. Again, it's one of those nice and cheap 3 drops that we can play into a Sarkhan's Unsealing. Being 5 power, it does trigger the top half of the Sarkhan's Unsealing, similar to the Bone Crusher Giant as well. Should mention that Bone Crusher Giant, in addition to having that stomp effect to deal 2 damage, when you cast the creature side of it, you will trigger Sarkhan's Unsealing to deal 4 damage to any target. So you can turn your Bone Crusher Giant into a 3-mana 4/3 with a pseudo lava coil attached to it, let's say. And then to tie it all together, we've got 4 copies of Gilded Goose and 4 copies of Llanowar Elves, because Historic is a very fast format, and if you're not casting things on turn 3 and 4 that win you the game, you are losing the game. So, if we have the Gilded Goose and the Llanowar Elves, that means we can cast the Sarkhan's Unsealing as early as possible, turn 3 most likely, into a turn 4 board wipe, into a turn 5 Great Henge, to chain together to win the game. Something like that is going to happen anyway. We do have 3 copies of Eliminate as well, to get rid of anything really, like Teferis and anything that might irritate us. If we need to eliminate before we play Sarkhan's Unsealing, for example, since this does fold a little bit annoyingly to 3 Fairy, being able to bounce it on turn 3, we could potentially be using a food token to pay for it as well, which would be irritating. We have the Eliminates to hopefully eliminate Teferi before it becomes a problem, but other than that, it's another bit of aggro defense, because I think once we've established our board state, we shouldn't really have too much to worry about, but until we've done that, we should be protecting our life total. The mana base is nothing special. In particular, we're a little bit more leveraged on the green for obvious reasons. We want to have our turn 1 Llanowar Elves and our turn 2 Gilded Geese, so we've got the 4 forests and a plains, a basic of each type, just in case we get Assassin's Trophied or something like that. It's nice to have all colours of mana in your mana base. But yeah, we've got Blood Crypts, Overgrown Tombs, Stomping Grounds, and then the Checklands to tie it all together as well, so that hopefully we don't have to have too much of a painful mana base to make this 3-colour deck work. Hopefully you've enjoyed the deck tech and you enjoy the gameplay. If you do, make sure to hit that like button. It helps out the channel a great deal. Thank everyone that's been doing it so far, because the channel's been picking up quite a fair bit of pace, so anyone who has liked and commented and subscribed, greatly appreciate it, and I hope that you continue to enjoy the content that I put out. But yes, thank you very much, and let's get to it. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty then, we're in, and this seems okay to me, so we're going to keep it. We got turn 2 Bone Crusher Giant to stomp whatever our opponent's doing, hitting a Gilded Goose or a Llanowar Elves, most likely. Ooh, it's the old Soul Sisterinos. We'll say hello. Alright. Turn 1 Llanowar Elves. You're going down, opponent. You're going down. We do have turn 3 Nixathid, for whatever that's worth. We'll see. It depends on how quickly our opponent empties their hand, I suppose. Oh. Oh. Okay. Well, we've got a treat for our opponent. We're going to pass the turn. Probably plan on stomping the Soul Warden, most likely. It's actually Black-White Soul Sisters. Fair enough. And a Johnny's Pride Mate enters the field. I think we actually kill that instead, because it's the one that can get a little bit bigger than we can deal with. So let's stomp you. No white mana for them to protect with the God's Willing or anything of that sort. And yeah, we're just going to go with a Sarkhan's Unsealing, and next turn we wipe the board. Revitalize, sure. Locthwain and swing. So yeah, I think we win the game now. So we go Nixathid, which on the stack has 7 power and toughness, so 4 damage to everything except for our stuff. Sweet. It is a 5/5. It's going to be a 4/4 on our opponent's turn, but if they play anything, it'll go a little bit bigger. Revenge of Ravens, okay. So yeah, let's just go with the Great Henge here. And you know what, I'll bond as well. Rotting Regisaur is a nice pick for a board wipe next turn. And we'll get in. We shouldn't have got in with the elves. That was a mistake. A little bit too ahead of myself on that one. Opponent revitalizes and plays a Soul Warden. Okay. And yeah, I think we just... I mean, we can actually just go with another Sarkhan's Unsealing here. into Rotting Regisaur. Deal 8 to our opponent. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Alright, well that was easy. I guess that's the matchup that we really want. They had some weird cards in there though. I've never seen Revenge of Ravens being used in Soul Sisters. I was expecting it to be the 1 black vampire, which is the other Pride Mate effect in here, but yeah, it's definitely not the best version. I don't even think they run Revitalize in like the tier list of Soul Sisters, but we had the nut draw anyway, so you know, we were gonna win regardless. Alrighty, we're in. We have a painful mana base, but otherwise a decent hand, so we're going to keep this one. And our opponent with the Chandra Mountain. That could be good or bad for us, to be honest. I think I'm going to go with a Overgrown Tomb tapped. I don't think I want to shock myself for a Gilded Goose that could just die to a shock there. I'm guessing it's Goblins. That's running rampant at the moment. Wily Goblin. Of all the things I could stomp, that's it's not one of them, really. But, yeah, I think if we find our Sarkhan's Unsealing, we will win this game. So, I guess on that note, let's get Llanowar Elves down so that we can have max amount of mana and get that Sarkhan's Unsealing as online as quickly as possible. Krenko Mob Boss. Okay. So you're saying that we're winning this game. Sarkhan's Unsealing, pass the turn. So every time we cast a card with 7 power or greater, we deal 4 damage to everything on the board and 4 damage to our opponent. Not to our own creatures, mind you. So they're going to gem palm my Llanowar Elves, I guess. That's fine. That is totally fine. And they can double their Krenko goblins if they really want to here, but that's 3 less damage that they're going to get in, so yeah, they just lose now. So that's good. We'll go with Nyx the Thid. Goodbye, board state. Hardly knew you. Alright. Our weird 4-4, weird 3-3, I guess. Just killed our opponent's chances of winning. We'll see, though. I mean, Goblin Ringleader is a pretty good follow-up. But if I ever draw another, like, Rotting Regisaur or Nyx the Thid here, or even the Great Enge, probably, we'll just win the game. Alright, so there's Rotting Regisaur. I don't think I need to do it just yet, though. We'll go with Bond of Flourishing and we'll stomp this Skirt Prospector, most likely. Another Unsealing. Yes. Absolutely. So let's stomp Prospector. It's the reason why their deck can function a lot of the time. So they can sack it to fizzle my Bone Crusher Giant. I really don't care too much. I guess we could have gone with just a hard cast would have also worked, I guess. Maybe. Since this does actually trigger off of the hard cast. Yeah, shouldn't have done that. I don't know. I was just internally trying to get greedy, I guess. At least we've got a backup, though, and yeah, I think our opponent realizes that their board state can never actually develop into anything of note. What would you get there if you were our opponent? I don't even know, to be honest. I genuinely have no idea what you get there that gets you out of this. You already have the Gem Palm, which is the only thing they can cast right there. They can play an Instigator, and then I'm sure they're pretty confident that, because I picked this other Sarkhan's Unsealing, that I can just blow up their board at any time. It's probably another Ringleader if I had to guess. You want to hope that you can refill your hand enough to make this Nyx the Thid not absolutely huge for its mana cost. This thing, 3 mana, always comes down as like a 4-4 at the very least. It's great. Absolutely great. Alrighty then, let's have a look. See, we've got a turn 1 Llanowar Elves into probably just Gilded Goose. I think we're going to keep this hand. It's not ideal. And I think we are going with turn 1 Llanowar Elves here. We can recover that health with a Gilded Goose food token, I guess. And Eliminate's not bad either, so we're going to go with Woodland Cemetery. Play Gilded Goose and see what our opponent wants to do. We've got the Eliminate if it is Goblins. I think we'll pass with that open. Kill a Conspicuous Snoop or whatever. Leading off with a Wily Goblin again. I guess it is, like, up there on best lead off with kind of cards. We're just gonna slap down a Swamp, and I think we're passing. Plan on making a food and cracking a food. With Eliminate to kill something decent enough here. We're looking for, like, killing Prospectors and Chieftains as well would also be just fine. I'm not trading with a Wily Goblin, but I will block it. So we'll make a food token. And see where we go from there. So Nyxathid is currently going to be a 2-2, which is really weird going up against the Goblins deck that this isn't huge already, but yeah, I'm really not ready to fire it off just yet. In fact, we can maybe just top deck Sarkhan's Unsealing, and then we'll want that immediate board wipe anyway. So yeah, I think they're seriously considering playing around any removal that I might have here, and I think Hardcast Gem Palm says a lot. And they pass. We will make a food and sack a food. So try and buy as much time as possible. Bone Crusher Giant, okay. So that's not bad. We can keep their goblin count down. And then also play it to give cost reduction to the Great Henge. So that's a 5 mana card that we can hopefully work with next turn. They are getting up to Muxus mana. Well, they're already at Muxus mana, actually. Let's see if we can survive the turn. Lol. Yeah, cool. So we've lost. Krenko taps doubles the amount of goblins. They're all 2/2s with haste because of the chieftain. So this is why people think that goblins are a problem for Arena. And I'm not exactly against the idea that they are a problem, in all honesty. I don't know why our opponent didn't tap their Krenko. It represented a whole lot more damage than what they did there, and in fact, I'm pretty sure they just missed lethal. And we didn't draw our Sarkhan's Unsealing, so we lose the game. Moving on. Alright, we are in, and have a little bit of a slow hand, but it has everything that we could possibly want from a hand anyway. We've got the Gilded Goose as our red mana for the Sarkhan's Unsealing, and I think that's where we're leading off first. They've got a Team of Triumph. So is it Woodland Cemetery or is it Rootbound Craig here? I guess it's Rootbound Craig. We can go with Swamp next turn to make the Cemetery untapped. And this still allows us to go with the Gilded Goose here. Alright. So Gilded Goose, play a Swamp, and next turn we could have ourselves a Sarkhan's Unsealing with board wipe potential ready to go on 2 different possibilities. It looks like it's actually not going to be a relevant action in this matchup, short of the 4 damage to our opponent's face anyway. But we are going to go for it nonetheless. So let's just play Sarkhan's Unsealing down. And see what our opponent wants to do. I mean, I guess it's entirely possible we should have led with the Rotting Regisaur there. Since the pressure might be actually the bigger factor here. So we're going to go with Rotting Regisaur. 4 to our opponent. We're then going to, I think, make a 1-1 with the Lovestruck Beast and get that ready for going as well. So we discard 2 cards here. We're going to go with the Nixithid and the Eliminate. If we have the Great Henge, it basically means that we can have 0 cards in our hand and any top deck can chain us into several spells. We're just hoping we don't see any board wipes at this point, like Shatter the Sky, but the fact that they picked blue there says to me we're probably just going to see... Well, turns out it's going to be Teferi Time Raveler. Going to go after Rotting Regisaur, fair enough. Buys them a lot of time. For sure. And in fact, we need a land now, don't we? Otherwise, we lose our entire hand. Sanctum of Calm Waters. Well, we are good at magic, so... We did get what we wanted. So, goodbye to Fairy. Opponent goes to 10. And we will play the Great Henge to get that out of our hands. Swing for 1. And we've got nothing to discard now, but our opponent is basically in the driver's seat. They are a gain life effect away from winning here, I would imagine. Then again, if they can't deal with the Rotting Regisaur, we do have essentially lethal on board. It's all going to come down to how many spells we can cast, though, that we can direct at our opponent's face. And they're going to need to survive our turn, so yeah, Shatter the Sky draws us a card. We will make a food token before Gilded Goose goes. Got Nixithid, which is 4 damage to our opponent's face. So we actually have them at 1 right now, between the Lovestruck Beast and the Nixithid. So no life gain effects, please. Gilded Goose is already dead. And there's the Honden. Yeah, okay, so... It's going to be a mystery as to whether or not we can get this done. So, 4 damage to everything. Oh, we put our opponent to 3. Oh, they're dead. Why did I think we weren't going to win this one? There you go, you're gone. I don't know why I actually thought that they would be at 1 here, but they are absolutely not at 1. They are in fact at -1 and dead. Alright, solid. Solid. We almost lost. If they'd have got to their upkeep, I think Honden would have saved it for them. But they didn't, so we won. Sweet. Alrighty then, let's have a look-see. This actually looks not too bad, to be honest. I'm not obviously blown away by the double henge, but we do have our Sarkhan's Unsealing, we do have an enabler for it, and if we find red mana, which we're hoping to find lands with a hand like this anyway, then we've got our Bone Crusher Giant into actually playing it for the cost reduction on the Great Henge. I think this is fine. It obviously needs a little bit of work. It's gonna need RNG to take the wheel a little bit. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this one. So we'll go with the Overgrown Tomb tapped and pass the turn. 42% chance to find a land. Here we go. Look at that. I'm that good at Magic the Gathering. Alright, so our opponent probably won't be playing anything that I'll want to stomp next turn. Then again, yeah, I probably will leave open the stomp and I'll use it regardless so that I can play Bone Crusher Giant on 3. I think that's probably for the best. It's also mono red as well, which... I mean, if it's goblins, it actually looks like it's going to be someone playing dragons, which is fascinating, to be honest. We're probably not going to get this stomp having much use, to be honest. Okay, so we could play Bone Crusher Giant here. That would give a 4 cost reduction on the Great Henge, or I could go for the Gilded Goose, and I think that's probably better. Gilded Goose for Sarkhan's Unsealing next turn. And we'll see if it dies or not. It could get Scorching Dragon fired or shocked. It's like our opponent's playing a casual homebrew, though. Literally first time seeing Radiant Fountain. And yeah, it looks like our opponent's found a lot of Dragon Jumpstart cards. into their collection, and yeah, right. So we're going to go with the Sarkhan's Unsealing. We do have a 4 damage burn spell in the Bone Crusher Giant now, which leads to cost reduction on the Great Henge. But we are back down at 3 mana, so a little bit iffy. We'll have to see what happens here. Well, actually, we've got a board wipe, really. And in fact, their entire board is now dead. So, except for that Lathless. That Lathless is very much alive. Okay. So we got Dragon Skull Summit. I think we are going with Nyx the Thid. 4 damage to everything, kills Sarkhan. It's just a shame we can't get Lathless at the same time. We should be able to next turn, I would hope. And I think the killing the cost reducers here and Sarkhan is very important, so let's get that out there and we'll make our 1/1 as well while we're still here. Pass the turn. Alright. So, opponent plays some cards. Gives every time they do that, we get a little bit of cost reduction, but yeah, we might still just lose here. If those dragons were 4/4s, I think it'd be a very different story, but send 5 at my face. There you go. We're at 4. So I need... What do I need? Probably I need to block. So we'll do a chump. Because I don't think I'm going to be able to find the time to actually use the Gilded Goose there. And then I'll have to go Great Henge. Tap it to go to 12. Play Lovestruck Beast. And shoot the Terror. And draw a card. Did not draw what we wanted, unfortunately. And yeah, let's just play a land, swing for 6. And we're dead, aren't we? If they know that Lathless can activate, which it sounds like they do. Yep, alright. A little bit too slow. But gotta play to our outs, and our out was being at 1 there. And hoping that was good enough. Yeah, it just turned out a 6/6 and a 5/5. Don't get killed when you deal 4 damage. Who knew? Alrighty then, what are we looking at here? On the draw with a turn 1 Llanowar Elves into several things, to be honest, so I'm going to keep this one. We've got a right cheap Great Henge. And our opponent's playing Groblins, as is apparently the only deck on Magic the Gathering Arena right now. So we will want to Bone Crush the Prospector, because that allows them to kill us very, very, very quickly. So let's... Yeah, let's Bone Crush the Prospector. They'll sack it in response to Fiddle the Bone Crusher and put it in our graveyard. Yep, yep, yep. And then we'll play a Gilded Goose. Alright, let's see how quickly they can get their Muxus into play. And then let's see how lucky they can get when Muxus actually activates. Alright, we're going with Goblin Chieftain for the haste. And we'll take 4. Interesting line of play for them for sure. So we could go with Stomp plus Regisaur, gives cost reduction on the Great Henge for the next turn. We discard the Lovestruck Beast and then we're on top decks. That doesn't necessarily seem like a great idea. Certainly think we killed Chieftain though. Maybe we just... Nah, let's play Regisaur. I think getting a pressure piece like this wonderful little boy right here is very likely for the best. Alright, so they got an Instigator. And we will discard the Lovestruck Beast. Nyx the Thid is very, very good for us. So we got the Great Henge. We can't really do anything with it just yet, so we'll just make a food token. And swing for 7, sorry. Get a little bit of a chump down, which is good for us. The less goblins they have in play, the better. Gem Palms do a lot less. And Skirt Prospectors do a lot less as well. So we got the Wily Goblin and the Prospector. Okay, so we're really just hoping for Sarkhan's Unsealing here, otherwise they've probably just won. Well, we got Bone Crusher. So let's kill Skirt Prospector. Again, they'll fizzle. Yep, so we don't get to play that, but we do have this Bone Crusher instead. Gotta use our Gilded Goose mana, unfortunately. And it's going to be a Stomping Ground tapped for us, and swing for 7 again. Actually, we'll swing with the Llanowar Elves as well. I don't think there's much reason not to. A trade-off with 1 Goblin is perfectly fine. At this stage, we've got all the mana we could ever want. There's War Chief for Cost Reduction and Haste. And yeah, we've managed to at least control the board enough for them to not be able to get their game plan going. The Skirt Prospector is really one of the major powerhouses of this deck. If you can kill this card, you absolutely should. And yeah, we managed to. There's a chance that maybe some of these end up being Muxus in their hands. So if they had Muxus, they could get rid of these Wily Goblins and cast him and then chain together into Chieftains and Krenkors and all sorts. So if you knock off that ability for them to ramp, you really kind of hinder their ability to perform as a combo deck, which is essentially what this deck is now. It's combo. So this is why I love Goblins so much, because if you go to Legacy, Goblins are control, because they've got like Rishadin Ports, Wastelands, Ether Vials, stuff like that. They just control the boards. I mean, in Historic, it's turned into combo Goblins, and then there's obviously aggro Goblins as well in like Modern with 8-whack. There's just, I don't know. There are so many different ways you could make this card into so many things. Like, there's even a Fecundity deck as well, isn't there? I can't remember what they call it now. Is it Dirty Kitty or something like that? There's a combo deck with, like, Goblin Instigators, where when a creature dies, you draw a card, so you chain all of these card draws together with your Skirt Prospectors, sacking and basically playing things for free. And then you find Empty the Warrens and storm off, and yeah. I love Goblins. I'm not mad that this deck is showing up so much. I probably will be eventually. I'll be a little bit tired of it. That comes with the territory, but Goblins can do no wrong in my eyes. Alright, let's go for one more game. Alrighty then, we're in, and it looks like we're very on the verge of a nut draw kind of hand. If this Sarkhan's Unsealing was a Llanowar Elves or a Gilded Goose, we'd be pretty much in the driver's seat for this game. We're going to keep this one though, because it is definitely, without a doubt, keepable. And hopefully our opponent's playing something that actually cares about Sarkhan's Unsealing, you know. Hallowed Fountain, not always the sign of a creature deck, but it could be like blue-white flyers maybe, and the Unsealing will definitely make some impact there. It's going to be Spirits. Okay. So this one can only block creatures with flying, and it taps to tap things. Okay. So we're just going to, I think, shock in here so we can hold open our Stomp. Whether or not I actually use it or not is to be determined. I think we'll pass. A little concerned about counter magic, so if I can get it out trying to kill things, then that'd be grand. Alright, so opponent with the Supreme Phantom that we cannot stomp. And we'll go with Bond of Flourishing. Yeah, Gilded Goose, actually. Gilded Goose. Shock this in, play Goose. And then we can play Unsealing next turn. And if this resolves, I can't see how we will really lose the game, unless they're running like Brazen Borrowers to bounce it and then they have counter magic. I do have to play around the Lofty Denial, I guess. Which should be easy enough. Because since we've got the redundant Sarkhan's Unsealing right now. So we shall unseal. Get Lofty Denialed. And then we'll play our tap land. Wow, it did not get Lofty Denialed. Will it get bounced? Is this where Brazen Borrower comes into effect? It is. Alright. Okay. So we're going to take a little bit of damage here. And by a little, I mean probably a lot. In the grand scheme of things. Unsealing. Back down. Will it get bounced again? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. My god, it actually will. What is our opponent's hand? It's amazing. Yeah, we're probably too slow now. That's the sad reality of this situation. We will block some damage. Down to 11. We're going to play Sarkhan's Unsealing. I don't know. Maybe we're not too slow. I guess it depends on if they have another Brazen Borrower. Are you kidding me? Don't you dare. Play your other Brazen Borrower. That's fine. They didn't. They're not going to play into Sarkhan's Unsealing, it seems. Another Supreme Phantom, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so we die now to our opponent's flashed in Brazen Borrower. Actually, no we don't, because we got the Bond of Flourishing first. So we can gain the 3 life to survive. And even get ourselves a Stomp as well to kill it. So, play Nyx the Thid. 4 damage to everything. Yeah, we might win now. So that's a 6-6 coming down. We'll tap land. We need to just basically control the board until the end of time now. So we're going down to 2. And we'll need essentially instant speed removal at all times in order to win this game. Well, we got another Bond. So we'll do Bond of Flourishing, gain the life. I think we just take the land here. Go up to 5. Play Bone Crusher Giant, deal 4 to the Brazen Borrower, and then we've got the Stomp open if they have another Brazen Borrower. Or anything that flashes, I guess. Nebelgeist Heralds. Yeah, we will kill that. Maybe a little bit premature on the Stomp, admittedly, but I think that we probably have the attacking power to not really care about what our opponent can play here. The very fact that we have a cast trigger says a lot about our chances of winning here. Let's go for another Sarkhan's Unsealing, and I think this actually presents lethal, right? We go 8 damage, kill the board. Yeah, okay. Wow, a turn away from defeat. Get wrecked, spirits. Alright. Well, that is going to do it for today's episode. This deck, I didn't actually have high hopes for it all that much, and I still don't necessarily. I think it's more of a fun deck than anything else, but today it has performed extremely well, as you've maybe been able to see. Taking down goblins a fair few times, though I think one of them was maybe played a little bit suboptimally, if I remember correctly. I don't know. But yeah, being able to deal with a wide range of the field seems pretty good. The only issue, I think, with this deck is going up against like combo decks like Wilderness Reclamation that don't necessarily care about creature removal and planeswalker removal. Those are probably going to be bad matchups, but again, we did beat the Shrines list, but then again, that was by a thread, so yeah, I like this deck. I think it's fun. If you've got the pieces for it, by all means play it. I don't think you could go particularly wrong, but it is surely going to break the budget though, so as far as playing this, if you need to craft many of the cards, I probably wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Just watch this video all over again, I guess, to enjoy it vicariously through me, and maybe we'll return to it in the future. I think every single time a cheap 7/7 enters the format, I will return to Sarkhan's Unsealing, don't you worry. But yeah, had a lot of fun with this one. Hopefully you guys did too. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Leave a comment down below what you would do with your Sarkhan's Unsealing. And yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed. Have a good day, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.